Aussie battler do it again. They're racing, and he gets off quickly this time. Jim Richardson. Burgmann goes for the split. Colin Bond's not going to find any room there on the grass. No, and he doesn't either. Garry Rogers gets caught, and Richards has got problems there, and the rest of the field goes by. Not the day for Frank Gardner and the boys of the JPS team.
Didn't just miss one, Garry, missed them all.
Brilliant and we pick up race cam too. We're travelling with Tony Longhurst down through the Dunlop Loop, a 7 Sports exclusive, as we take in the opening lap of Heat 2. And Garry Willmington, the Leppington Leadfoot, is in front as they head down to the left-hander at Honda Corner. And there's the gap. Mike Burgmann, Sydney accountant, got the right figures working for him today, up in the second. Behind him, Garry Rogers making a run in the Bob Jane T-Mart, 635 BMW. Mrs. O'Brien's little Charlie coming through there in car number 7 as well.
Big move there by Garry Rogers through the late corner, puts him up in the second spot ahead of Burgmann.
And I tell you what, the Amaroo regulars are getting the good old shuffle back today. Some of these guys we call, of course, the invisible heroes that you don't see on too many of our telecasts, because the races are dominated by Jim Richards and Robbie Francevic and Peter Brock. They are really getting their revenge here today. Good to see too.
Jim Richards, by the way, is up and running, but a long way last.
Yes, he'll be lucky to even pull back 4 or 5 cars inside the distance. There's Mike Burgmann. Ran in about 5th or 6th spot of the Touring Car Championship opener, and Charlie O'Brien in there trying to find a way past Mike.
O'Brien literally bumper to bumper in the bumper to bumper sponsored car as Colin Bond locks the Alfa up and tries to go underneath him. But the Borden Commodore of Burgmann says, what a sensational start from him, up into 3rd place. The car now in full 86 spec, and he's flying. This is the battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, and right behind him Tony Longhurst carrying our race cam.
Yes, we'll take you back to that a little later. Things are getting quite interesting here in the battle between Mike Burgmann and Charlie O'Brien. Garry Willmington doing it perfectly. I tell you, if he doesn't pick up a sponsor after today's round here at Amaroo Park, he never will. Some of you commercially minded people out there that want to get behind some of these drivers, I think they're showing their wares here today at Amaroo Park, make no mistake. The bumper-to-bumper entry of Charlie O'Brien, car number 7. And right behind him, Colin Bond, and then Tony Longhurst.
Richards is 15 seconds down on the leaders.
I guess with all these guys that really aren't the headline snatchers, it's rebels with a cause today. They're trying to get back and be noticed.
Make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't shining at Donington. They're hoping it is here.
Be great news, wouldn't it, for Peter Brock and Alan Grice scratching for pole position at Donington and find out that all the troops that usually run behind them are breaking track records at their home base and doing such a good job, particularly Garry Willmington. There's Burgmann, O'Brien behind him, and Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst in the BMW. He's staying in touch with them. Bond has been up on 2 wheels most of the day. And you don't come to Amaroo Park and see the JPS boys back in the pack for that long. And today, that's the way it really has been.
Well, that's the view that Longhurst's got. Colin Bond up in front of him. Charlie O'Brien ahead of Bond, and then Burgmann.
O'Brien now making a move on Burgmann as they go down to the stop corner.
Actually, it all looks so simple sitting in your armchair with the long view of the racetrack, but every time we cross to race cam, it gives you an indication of just how tight those cars are.
And how quick the corners come up.
Exactly. Burgmann comes across the line. Right behind him, Queensland's Charlie O'Brien in the bumper-to-bumper, number 7 BMW 635. Over the top and into Dunlop Loop. Just ahead of them is, of course, Garry Rogers in the Bob Jane T-Mart's BMW 635.
Jim Richards, who blew the start and set out in pursuit a long, long last, is picking up about a second a lap, but he's still got a lot of ground to cover.
Here's the 3rd or 2nd place driver on the field at the moment, and that is Garry Rogers of Victoria, the former JPS car, turned out in Bob Jane T-Mart's colours today. And he's holding down a solid 2nd, not gaining that much at this stage of the event, this 10-lapper on Garry Willmington. But I tell you what, the scrap back behind them between Burgmann, O'Brien, Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst is something else.
The bad news for Richards fans is that he's off the circuit again. I hate to talk about things that we can't see, but Jim has disappeared, so it's really centred now on this battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. And Burgmann leading from O'Brien, then Bond, and behind them Tony Longhurst.
As I was saying earlier, it all looks so easy from the armchair, I guess, as we follow the cars around, but we'll put you in the driver's seat. And then you can work out where you would pass Colin Bond. That's if you can get close enough to him. And Bond, of course, has his hands full trying to contain the driver in front of him, Charlie O Brien. And he, of course, is all over Mike Burgmann like a wet blanket. We come down to the late corner. The right-hander. Everyone quite savagely on the brakes here. Accelerate like crazy coming up to the right-hander at Wonderlip Corner. Now see if Longhurst loses out in the run up the hill to the Bond Alfa. They head up Bitchapave again.
He's really giving it a rev. Backs off slightly. Gets up on the ripple strips, tries to dive underneath Colin Bond. Back 2 gears, up on the ripple strip again. This part of the corner, you've got to gradually ease into power. He can wind up out there on the signs. And here you'll hear him just make a very small lift and then through the corner flat out in third.
End result is, though, he hasn't been able to take Colin Bond and make up too much ground at all, Tony Longhurst. That's the race cam view. Meantime, back at the head of proceedings.
Whoops.
Garry Rogers goes underneath Willmington at the late corner to snatch the lead in this second heat of the Better Breaks Series.
We'll see if Willmington can gain on the run-up Bitchapave Hill.
And look at Burgmann in third place too. He's right on the back of Willmington. He's come out of nowhere.
Well, he's leading the pace right up here. I think Willmington wants 2 in a row here today. He probably won't do it here handling through Dunlop Loop. Yes, they have closed up first back to 6th as they come out of the bottom turn and now come down towards Mazda. A great scrap this. Garry Rogers, Garry Willmington, Mike Burgmann, Charlie O Brien, behind him Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst. And Bond pulls out, goes down the inside, yes, and connects with the door handle there of Charlie O Brien. And where Longhurst is coming from, right out against the grass verge, but he closes up.
Oh! Bond's on the inside.
Yeah, he got the short back and sides in the last manoeuvre, and now he decides to pay him back.
Longhurst loses out.
Once again, they come on to the start finishing straight here at Amaroo. Rogers leads across the strike. Willmington now has Burgmann glued to his tailpipe. 2 laps remain as they go to the top of Nissan Skyline, and there you'll see the gap. Watch Burgmann. He's dialing right here, looking for an inside pass, if he can, as they come down towards Mazda Corner. And poor old Garry Willmington bought a new Avon tyre for this race meeting. Got news from him, I think it's through. Out to the left-hander. And Burgmann is there, but look at Charlie O Brien, Mrs. O Brien's little boy from Brisbane. Burgmann fights back again, and Colin Bond isn't half anxious to go on with this, is he? Little tap there as they come out of the turn. Rogers across the line.
Whatever they're going to do, they're going to do it in a hurry because time's running out. Last lap board is out.
This is the scrap of the year so far.
I'll settle for every touring car round being as close as this. Garry Rogers, the only man with a little breathing space, goes through Dunlop Loop on the Bob Jane T-Mart's BMW 635. Well clear at this stage, but we'll wait for the scrap for second. And just look at it. This is going to go right down to the wire for second. Willmington, Mike Burgmann, Charlie O Brien, Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst. There goes our race leader. He's in no doubt of being beaten in the last quarter lap of this race. We'll await the others to arrive at the late corner. Here's Burgmann making his move. O'Brien goes out wide looking for the tuck back on the inside of Mike Burgmann. Bond couldn't do anything about any of that. He makes a run up on the inside, but coming out of the last corner. And the first up win for Garry Rogers in the Bob Jane T-Mart's BMW. Second will go to Garry Willmington, and third place will go to Mike Burgmann. Perhaps the best touring car race in Australia this year.
Well, great racing. Absolutely terrific stuff.